Sheringham Park. I've been coming here as long as I can remember, at least from a very young boy, but I've never come down this track before. So I've got the PEDcast to thank for that. And it's great to get away from it all sometimes, away from the hurly-burly of the PhD. And in a sense, on the PEDcast, we like to give a flavour of the kind of things to think about beyond the world of soil science. One of those is research impact. And our guest contributor, Professor Mark Reed from Newcastle University, is here now with another tip to stimulate our research impact.
One of the ways that I think researchers can save the most time on their pathway to impact is thinking in a much more hard-nosed way about who you invest time speaking to, engaging with, and who you do not spend time speaking to and engaging with. There is a limited time in every day, in every week, in every month. And actually, if you were to look at all the publics, all the stakeholders, all the organisations who in theory have an interest in your work and try and reach out to them, you wouldn't do the research. So we need to have a clear way of deciding who do I talk to and who do I say, well, maybe later, or engage in a more efficient way, say through a newsletter or social media, for example. A tool that I use is something called stakeholder analysis. I call this stakeholder or publics analysis because you can use it for either group. And this is a really simple way of trying to understand who, out of the range of organisations you might work with, out of the different publics who may have an interest in your work, is most interested. And then secondly, in terms of stakeholder organisations, who has most influence. Now that influence can be for good or for bad. There will be some organisations who are hugely interested in your work because they hate it and they want to oppose it in every way they can. And you need to identify those groups up front as much as the groups who love what you're doing and for whom your impact is their impact. And they will actually throw resources, staff, money, data at you to help you on your pathway to impact. When you're looking at stakeholders, instead of looking at influence, I might then change that and think about relative level of benefit. So I'm now looking at those who are most interested, but who will benefit most as well. And you can kind of mix and match it a bit. But we're looking at the people who are most interested and who will benefit and be able to influence to enable us to achieve impact. When you do that, what falls out of that not only is the high benefit, high interest and the high influence groups, but also the hard to reach groups. And that for me actually is some of the most useful information you get from this. So those publics who would actually benefit enormously from this research, if only they would come along to your events, if you could actually reach out to them. And then for me, this is an exercise in scratching your head and trying to work out, well, how could I make this relevant? Like, how could I take it to them and make it resonate for them so they get that benefit? How could I take this from the edge of a decision maker's desk into the centre of their desk so they actually do listen to what we're doing and help us rather than oppose us. So using these kinds of tools, you can systematically now work out some of these really important organisations, groups you need to engage with, also some of the harder reach groups that might otherwise fall off your radar. The final thing for me in this that makes this so valuable and where you start to save time is that what you now have is a list of organisations or groups and they are prioritised. You're prioritising them in whatever way you want. So actually for me, I tend to prioritise the hard to reach group first rather than necessarily the most influential group first. And you can now have that targeted, ranked list of organisations and you simply start at the top. And it may be that I have time in the next 3 months to reach out to 3 organisations and I spend 15 minutes per month reaching out to those 3 organisations. And actually maybe I get busy and that's the only 3 organisations I find time to reach out to. I spent 3/4 of an hour over 3 months and I have now significantly increased my potential for impact because I have in a targeted way reached out to the groups or organisations that are most important for me to reach out to. Instead of taking the more reactive approach, which is much more normal, of, well, I'll talk to whoever knocks on my door, whoever comes to my event, whoever shouts loudest, whether or not they are actually the groups who would benefit most or could influence most. And actually now I can, with a clean conscience, say, well, you know what? it's maybe not as much time as I wanted to give to it, but it's all I can give to it, and at least I spent that time in as efficient and as valuable a way as possible.